with Delcy Rodriguez regime?
All I can say is all the stakeholders involved in those projects continue to be engaged with the relevant and parallel representatives in Venezuela.
Good afternoon, K. Marie Fletcher, Guardian Media. Minister, you just said Trinidad and Tobago's interests will be served. I'd like you to expand on that a bit. We're hearing talks about the United States saying that they plan to begin selling Venezuela's oil because of our interests being served and our close relations with the United States. Does that mean that Trinidad and Tobago will have first preference in buying this oil?
Well, let me repeat my repetition. Trinidad and Tobago's interests will be served. The Honorable Prime Minister has worked very hard to ensure that Trinidad and Tobago's interests is served. And we continue with our arrangements that were in place before. We have had no change of course. And as you may know as well, that involves primarily the Dragon project, Dragonfield project, but it also involves, as you know, Coquina and Lauren Manatee as well. So that those matters continue. We expect that in the coming months we will advance along with the stakeholders, the companies will advance on those matters. In terms of regional cooperation, I can tell you that we have had discussions with officials in Suriname and Guyana. We have been in touch with the Honorable Minister of Natural Resources there, the Honorable Vikram Bharat. We have, of course, had good engagement with the government of Grenada. And we are advancing collaboration in the energy sector as part of our vision of becoming the energy hub of the Caribbean. In terms of Venezuela, because I know all of you will drift back to Venezuela eventually. We continue what we were doing before, which is to advance our interests in terms of the gas fields and those related projects.
Mm-hmm. But let's get real for a second. Persons are saying...
What?
Are saying, let's get real as in what people are saying on the talk, right?
But I hope I wasn't unreal.
Okay, no. Persons, members of the public, right, are saying that Venezuela was invaded, the United States want to take their oil, Trinidad and Tobago is benefiting from this. Trinidad and Tobago had some parts to play in this. As the energy minister, that's why when I mentioned let's get real, I want you to talk to the people of Trinidad and Tobago that are saying Trinidad and Tobago has benefited from this, or Trinidad and Tobago are getting things from this. What do you have to tell them?
Let me go back to my statement, because as I know, I had a sense that all these questions will eventually anchor their way back to Caracas. Mm-hmm. Let me get back to saying that those matters are matters primarily for the Prime Minister, ministries involved in law enforcement and Homeland Security Defense, the Honorable Prime Minister. I prefer not to comment on developments in Venezuela, the United States, or in fact anywhere. I comment only to let you know that our arrangements that were in place prior to December, involving the cross-border and the across-the-border gas fields, those arrangements continue and the stakeholders continue to work. And we are not far in terms of our timelines and our schedules.
But just for clarification's sake, didn't the President Maduro cancel all plans that we had with Trinidad and Tobago?
I've said before in the press that we don't operate on the basis of just, what we hear, what we read, what social media is saying, and so on. Agreements have been in place in this country with Venezuela for some years now, and to our knowledge, we have not received anything that suggests that any arrangement has changed officially. We have not. We continue to work, but I also want to indicate as well for people who are Venezuela paranoia and so on. That the Trinidad and Tobago has really done precious little business with Venezuela vis-a-vis energy. We are involved with several major countries of the world in partnerships. But we have never been involved. There's no commercial relationship in the energy sector. What we may have had is some agreements, some memoranda of agreement and so on over the years signing. But with all the developments, which I will not address, is not my portfolio, we have not lost a dollar. We haven't gained a dollar, but we haven't lost a dollar. We simply don't have commercial relationships on that issue. What we have had is some agreements to advance, particularly on gas field issues. And that continues. The stakeholders there have been working, and they continue to work. So there has been no change in that arena.
Mm-hmm. But
Can we just ask something?
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
two people spoke, you
no,
know.
but you are very important, you know.
Not about it.
I mean, Michelle is important too,
Of
but,
course.
but
What about all that unsponsored ban and so on?
the question really would be, okay, so we've seen reports in the media, mainstream media, not social media, in the mainstream media of former President Maduro cancelling all debts due to being annoyed with the new government. So the question would be, is the new government a bit more optimistic with Delcy Rodriguez than former President Maduro? Do you see her as more likely to be able to work? If a man has formally blanket cancelled everything, please.
John, let me put it to you again. I would explain, I would say again, while we have heard, we have read, we hear you, we have never received any cancellation, any official communication vis-a-vis those matters that suggest any change in anything. So just as we were optimistic last year, we are optimistic now of those projects and continuing our business. We have business, we have work to do. But again, Venezuela is not the be-all and end-all of this business. We have very serious developments taking place in other CARICOM territories, and we are working closely with those partners. We are now looking at partnerships outside of the region, particularly South America, Europe and Asia and so on, to see how we can deepen our collaboration in the energy sector. I can tell you that those discussions have been taking place, and much more will be done this year. So on that matter, rest assured that we're extremely optimistic, hopeful, and very keen to move forward. I did take note of a statement by the former Minister of Energy, who I think is unemployed and have absolutely nothing to do over the Christmas and New Year holidays. But I did take note of some statement he was making about energy matters and so on. I don't need to assure him that, we are extremely confident that the PNM and himself will not return. So that gives us an even greater reason to be confident in the future of the sector.
We see the Minister of Culture spoke about sponsorship for these bands, right? Was that implemented because of the fact that energy companies pulled sponsorships from these bands? So that could go both ways.
Minister, if you allow me, no, this is something that government has traditionally done, and it is, sorry if you're not hearing me, this is something that government over the years have traditionally done. We would have sponsored unsponsored ban last year. We would have the then government, 2.4. So any band that does not have sponsorship from whether it be corporate or any other entity, the government usually sponsors these bands.
Or was there a significant increase in the number of bands because energy companies pulled their support?
So I will say no. Actually, last year we had 148, and this year I only had requests initially when the note came to cabinet, I should say, forgive me, was 145, and then I had 2 additional requests. So in total, we'll be sponsoring 147 bands.
You mentioned 20K for each conventional band. And was it 10? How much?
Yes.
Right.
And this is coming from the ministry. As you would appreciate, we do have NCC, and Pan Trimbago does get a very substantial amount of what is allocated to NCC.
So you would say that you believe that this is a significant amount to support these bands at this time?
Given what the ministry does, and plus there are other grant facilities from my ministry, I have line items directed to Carnival organizations. This is just one of the ways that Prime Minister and the Cabinet approve sponsorship as well, but yes.
Well, we're in the carnival season already. You mentioned it being a bumper carnival this time,
yes,
right?
Carnival is on.
Right. So could you share with us what are these type of plans for it to be a bumper event? Because last night, the opposition leader mentioned that there are no plans. The government have not mentioned plans. In fact, she alluded to the fact that there may be no carnival altogether. And she's saying that She does not believe the government supports culture. There's been pull of support from PANs, pull of support where is limitations for fed venues, for monarchs, etc. So would you like to expand on that and speak to a person that are saying that yeah, there are cuts all over and there are cuts in terms of carnival as well?
I would like to tell the listening public and also the international public, as far as my voice and this viewership allows, that Trinidad and Tobago Carnival is on. It is the greatest show on the face of the earth, and I could tell you that the government have been in talks with the Promoters Association, and we have looked at alternative venues. The Prime Minister herself have dealt with that, and those pronouncements stands. Also, when it comes to there is no carnival and there is no plan, I would like to invite members of the opposition tonight to the Savannah. We have the opening of the Flavor Village, and I could tell you this is one of the new offerings with regards to our carnival. It is accumulation of our culinary offering, where we would have heard the cries, and I could tell you that even during us petitioning to get into government to serve the people of Trinidad and Tobago, we heard the cries of the vendors around the Savannah, where they're renting these booths and it's not really profitable. And we would have created entries where we created a village. And if you attend the village tonight, now that is opening at 7 p.m. and it's called the Flavor Village. So I can say Carnival is on. Carnival is well funded, and this government have the record of always contributing to our cultural sector, the highest budgetary allocation. And I would have made announcement from the start of the festivals that we are looking to cut out the wastage, which means the money will be directed to the artisans and everyone in trade. And I intend to, after our carnival has wound up on Ash Wednesday, to put out statements as to how many employment and how profitable with regards to our carnival.
Minister Benjamin, I'd just like to follow up Kay Marie.
Sure.
Now, you said that let's look at conventional bands, $20,000 each. So, to me, the first question that would arise would be, is that enough? Now, I guess a conventional band has about 100 people playing. They would want to give people appearance money, or at least if they reach the semis or finals. So, and it's just seasonal work. It's just a little thing you give, I guess, to cover up and down expenses. Then you have to look at the cost of trucks, to rent a truck from the average place in Trinidad to reach to the Savannah. Then the cost of chroming, cost of buying new pans and any racks that they're on and so forth. So can you say that given these figures, well, I haven't got the figures. In fact, would you like to offer some of the figures, like what the cost of transport is and how much a man should deserve to earn for beating pan on any finals and so on, if you'd like to offer it, and to suggest if the 20,000 is in fact enough or not, please.
Right, so I think I would have answered that question when I stated that this is just one of the financial avenues that the bands are funded, and even from Pan Trimbago, that funding is given through NCC. That organization is well funded. I would have even met with the president of Pan Trimbago this morning, Ms. Ramsey Moore, and of course we were discussing the competition that is Saturday, and of course transportation and accommodation for the bands, and of course she came to check on the minister with regards to allocation. And I could tell you that NCC, we have secured that competition happening. And apart from this funding, as I said, it's one avenue, other funds goes to the organizations that goes to the respective bands. But this is just one arm of the government, and that is what this is here today. Sure.
Okay, let me switch to Minister of Transport. Minister, I have a lot of questions for you here, right? Because there's been a lot of confusion in terms of fixed penalty fines, in terms of renewal of license and stuff like that. I know you mentioned implementing something new, right? But even before we get to something new, let's talk about what's just been happening for this first week of January. We have hundreds of motorists on the road complaining about the amount of fines, the prices, the increases, but more so the fact that they are saying that they were unaware of these fines. I know you mentioned that it was announced in December. However, at no license office, absolutely none, I have visited several branches, there is no sign indicating what the legal fee is. In fact, there are some old signs from the previous ones. In addition to no signage, the members of staff, the employees in your ministry are unaware of what the actual law is. So I'm asking you, one, how is it that you're saying that this was implemented since December and employees are unaware of this? And in addition to that, the confusion in terms of someone is paying $1,000 today, and then tomorrow morning someone else is paying $1,750, and then now you're implementing something else. There is this discussion in the public that persons are saying you are making it up as you go along. What do you have to say to that?
To answer that question, and I think we spoke about this a few days ago, there's a lot of misinformation in the public domain over the last 2 weeks. There are certain persons on social media and the opposition pushing a narrative. In one example, the mainstream media is also getting some of the information from some of these unverified sources, which to me is also very concerning. Journalists has a responsibility to get information from verified sources directly, and that has not been happening. I have answered all the questions that reporters, journalists has asked over the last 2 weeks as best as I could have, and I answered a lot yesterday. Now, when I spoke yesterday regarding Section 61A, that was specific to the late renewal fines. That was in the finance bill which was debated in both houses of Parliament on December 5th and December 9th. Regarding increase in fines, that was done by order, which I signed on December 22nd, which went into effect on January 1. As I indicated, the government had to act decisively, immediately, to address what was going on, the lawlessness on our nation's roads. Regarding the staff indicating they did not know, the staff was well aware of these new fines. They were informed of it weeks ago. And I think I answered that when we spoke, I think last week or this week.
So who's lying here? Because I spoke to members, I spoke to license officers, I spoke to cashiers, and I spoke to motorists, right? And the cashiers, persons in the offices are saying, well, we only got a message yesterday evening, on our phones, That's one thing. And
that's
license officer say he's confused. So you as the minister saying they are aware weeks now.
That's unfortunate that there are persons, even within, pushing a particular narrative for whatever reason. I don't want to speculate, but it's a narrative being pushed. And I would like to clear that now. Going back to one thing I did not mention regarding the change in price, and the Transport Commissioner did issue a release, and he spoke, I think he spoke to you on this as well. When they were entering the new prices on the system, the information for 2 of the offenses were entered incorrectly. 600 for over 1 year and under 6 months, and 1,000 for over 6 months and under 3 years. This was uncovered and it was changed immediately the next day, for the next day, which was Tuesday. And I answered this as well at the press conference yesterday. It was a human error.
Okay. When would signages be put up for persons to be aware of the correct thing? And then secondly, you mentioned that we had to take immediate action, right? Why is it that the government is waiting in the coming weeks to now go to Parliament to deal with this and not to address it one time? Because now you're having persons, motorists, that could be fined today, tomorrow, until we reach the Parliament, one price, and then someone else charge another price. So we're having that discrepancy.
No, I think there's a misunderstanding. This has to do with violations in the 9th schedule of the Motor Vehicle Act. The late renewals is something totally different. So please,
yeah, no, but I'm talking about the fixed penalties, because someone could be stopped today and get a fixed penalty and want to pay it. And then in the coming weeks, they would have the warning and not have to pay it.
To put this in place, we have to go to Parliament. There are amendments to the legislation first. Once that is done, this could be done by the minister. From time to time, the minister could change or amend the violations, change or amend the days to fix the defect, or the locations where somebody goes. Until then, there will be no grace period. So I'm speaking to the motoring public to please ensure that you have no defects on your vehicle during that period. Please.
But I'm asking, why the wait?
Well, we have to prepare to go to Parliament. That will take, and it will be going to Parliament in a couple of weeks.
And you don't find a couple of weeks is a long period of time? That's what I'm asking.
Just to interject here for the Minister, the reason we are going a couple of weeks to Parliament is because it has been the precedent of parliaments before us, before this government, that they usually meet at the end of January. So it's not an issue of the government that's telling you a couple of weeks we'll bring this. The Parliament usually, after Christmas, sits at the middle to the end of January. So it's really an issue of when the Parliament
So it's
restarts.
just a matter of formality.
Formality. So it's not an issue of the minister delaying anything or the government, but the Parliament itself starts back at the latter half of January.
You mentioned it being a digital thing, it has to upload.
Yes.
Is it that portal is already set up? Because we've seen when there's announcement of something going to be online, and we know the minute everyone jumps online, it crashes the same day. We're not a digital society as yet. How does that work?
As I just indicated, this is subject to discussion and change. We have already met, we're going back, we have already met with the Office of the Attorney General regarding this today, and I've already met with the IT team to put in place from now the portals that we will utilize to upload the receipts that will be issued at the police stations or the license officers.
But you didn't answer the question when I asked that when would the signs of the laws be put up for everyone to
my
be
humble
aware?
apologies.
And do you believe, or what do you have to say to persons that are saying you are making it up as you go? Same question.
I think I did answer it, ma'am. Persons have to be very careful in what the sources on social media. They have to be very careful. When you called me on Tuesday and you were writing your story, you told me you got your information from a particular person on social media. That was
Just
also
let me stop you
very...
right there. I never
that was
mentioned getting it on social media. I said I
well,
had a copy of a memorandum from the
a particular
Transport
place.
Commissioner.
No, from a particular place that it was on social media. But we don't have to go. I'm
No,
just
we
saying...
just had to clear that up because
we
as
have to
traditional
be-
media, as a journalist, no, one second.
careful.
I do not collect my information from social media, so let's clear that up one time. I called you, in fact, and I asked you to make it clear to the public what the fines are. You did not even want to go on record to clear up what the fines were. So let's just make that
I
clear.
do remember I was actually in a meeting, and I told you I will have the Transport Commissioner call you as soon as possible. I forwarded your contact information to him, and he did call. But I was in a meeting. I walked out of the meeting to take your call, ma'am.
Right. So to answer, when would the
But
signs be up?
the signs are actually going up now, ma'am,
As in today?
from
You said
yesterday.
no, from yesterday. So tomorrow morning, when motorists go to the license office, they would see the signage with the new legal fines.
You
being
should.
up.
And we'll begin an update from the Transport Commissioner right after postcap today.
Okay, so you're not making it up as you go. That was the
No.
question, not asked.
Good afternoon, Prior Bihari, AZB News. I guess you're Mr. Zakaru. Mr. Zakaru, when you have this new system where you have to go to a police station to verify that you fix the defects,
Yes.
we are seeing a lot of lines and chaos at licensing department. I mean, police officers, always say they're short-staffed, they're understaffed. What are you ensuring a system in place that there wouldn't be any sort of backlog and lines and things like that at a police station?
That was discussed. I've already spoken to the Minister of Homeland Security. There will be several consultation sessions on that matter. Regarding what's going on in license office, as I mentioned yesterday, the reason why there's an influx at all the license offices, persons are now coming to transfer their vehicle years after it was purchased. It wasn't done within the legal time frame, within 7 days. What persons have been doing, they have been delaying for the motor vehicle tax, as you know, changes different brackets as the years progress. They were waiting for the tax to go down, and they are running into issues where the persons who would have sold them the vehicle, unfortunately, may have passed. So persons are running into some predicaments right now. So please, I'm asking motorists that if you purchase a vehicle, please transfer it within a legal time frame. Persons are also coming to renew their driver's permits late. To this point, over 1,000 persons have came to renew their driving permit late, along with persons who are coming within the legal time frame. That's why there's an overspill at license office. I know we have some system challenges, and I had a meeting with IT again today. This system should have been changed years ago. This is something we inherited. The previous government did nothing to fix this issue, but we are working tirelessly to update the systems at the license office currently. We're just asking the members of the public, please work with us and bear with us during this time.
Yeah, yesterday you had a press conference, as the Minister of Transport
Yes.
at the party headquarters.
Yes.
Do you think that was appropriate, to have a function as a government minister at the headquarters of a political party?
Yes, that political party is the party in government. I see nothing wrong, and this came up on Sunday as well. I see nothing wrong with that. We are ministers of our party. Nothing is wrong with being in our headquarters.
Hi, Minister Benjamin. You spoke about consultation with the Fed promoters, and of course, there's a ban on Unicode facilities, like stadiums and things. What is the solution? What conclusion you all came to concerning that?
And it was in the public domain, as I stated, that spaces were made available in the savannah as well with CDA. So there were spaces that was allocated.
And in terms of arrivals for Carnival, do you think
Excuse, in terms of?
arrivals for Carnival, do you think the situation in Venezuela may affect that? In other words, people may not come given what is taking place in Venezuela?
I had a meeting with the band with the band association yesterday, and as far as I'm being told, registration with regards to costumes is ongoing. They have not seen any significant changes. Persons are still honoring their commitment. So I would say it is too soon to come to any conclusion. What I am noticing is an expressed interest, and our carnival is on, and it is set to be bigger, better, better.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Munilal. President Trump says that he's going to allow American companies to extract the oil from Venezuela. The Dragon gas situation, we have Shell is the company that is part of the Dragon gas, a license. Shell is not an American company. We do have ExxonMobil now in Trinidad. Do you see how you think that is going to play out?
Well, let me say again, the matters relating to developments in Venezuela are matters really within the purview of the Honorable Prime Minister, Minister of Homeland Security, Minister of Defense, and of course, the Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, the Honorable Sean Sobers. So I will not comment on political developments in those areas. I can just tell you again that even before the departure of Mr. Maduro, even before, we had no commercial relationship with Venezuela. There were agreements in place. We have received nothing official in writing or otherwise indicating that there has been any change in terms of ongoing involvement with the gas field projects. You're correct, Shell is involved, of course, in the Dragon field. BP is involved as well in other projects. We have been alerted during this period by those companies and others as well that their work program continues. They are calmly monitoring developments, but they will proceed with all arrangements that have been in place before. There has been absolutely no change. This is why we are very optimistic as we go forward. We do have an OFAC license in place for one of those projects, and we proceed. In terms of those other matters and so on, I prefer to leave those matters for the law enforcement ministers, foreign affairs ministers, and of course the Honorable Prime Minister.
It's a local ones now, so questions. There are some vacancies in Paria that hasn't been filled, including general manager and also vacancies in heritage. What is the keyback with those vacancies?
Those matters are organizational matters within the purview of the respective boards of directors. I leave it there. Those companies are, working around the clock. producing and having significant achievements at this time. So these are matters. There are always vacancies in state enterprises or ministries and so on as you go along, and they will be filled through transparent processes as we move forward. But those issues don't constitute for us any problem or any concern at this time.
Minister, I wonder if you've taken note of the impasse between NGC and Nutrien, and if it's not your role to see the best interests of the country to probably pacify the situation or diffuse the situation.
Well, what I can say is that, I mean, we are taking the position of seeking the best interests of Trinidad and Tobago, and that involves, of course, negotiating and renegotiating gas prices and gas agreements. One of the major issues that has led to some of these developments is the failure of the former regime and the often voluminous speaking former Minister of Energy, that over 5 years or so they were not able to negotiate properly gas agreements with several of the downstream entities. That has led to a crisis. They were not able to negotiate and settle pair-user arrangements, contracts. That has led to a concern. So their failure, their neglect, their unwillingness, their incompetence led to several concerns that we face now that we are working with. The NGC is working with all the downstream entities right now in terms of negotiations for new arrangements for the sale of gas. I have heard from some of the entities, because we monitor it at the Ministry of Energy. Some have expressed their willingness, and in fact they have expressed their appreciation for the manner in which NGC and other entities have been working with them during this period, where a lot of those agreements should have been negotiated and settled prior to April 2028. They were not, and we are now working on that. So we continue to monitor. We have a lot of interest in the downstream sector, as you can imagine, and that has spiked in the aftermath of, obviously, recent developments. That has spiked. We have a, our door is going to be broken down anytime now by investors coming to us and wishing to participate in the energy sector. The NGC, Heritage, Paria, and others are working around the clock to ensure that we have this sort of investment. What I can tell you in closing is that between 2025 to 2028, and just in that short period of time, we expect $9 billion United States dollars investment in the economy through the energy sector. And that relates not only to the upstream, but also to the downstream sector. So we are very optimistic.
Transport Minister, you mentioned 18 offences for this new warning system.
Yes.
But I know there are many offences under that particular section of the Act.
Close
Why
to
that
100.
particular 18? What's the rationale behind that?
These are the offenses that have defects to vehicles. These are the defects that you'll be permitted to fix during the 3 working days or the 7 working days. I would have listed all the 18.
Hi, good evening. Sonal Lala, TTT News Minister. Yesterday, the Prime Minister would have put out on social media that you would have provided that some information that a small minority of traffic wardens, licensed officers, and TTPS officers have been abusing the system. And she went on to say she cannot let this behavior continue. What exactly has to happen? How difficult it is to see about this exact issue?
Okay. Information came to us as indicated that there are a small group of persons, constables, Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, licensed officers, and even traffic wardens harassing motorists. I cannot speak for Minister Alexander, who oversees the TTPS. However, the license office and the traffic wardens do fall under my remit, and I will be having discussions with them of the attitude when they're on the nation's roads.
At this point in time, is there any redress for motorists or possibly a notice or something like that? Contesting the ticket, sorry?
Yes, everyone is within their right to contest a ticket at the courts.
Just for clarification, if one contests a ticket, is it possible for persons to still have transactions carried out at licensing office? So is it that when when you finish contest and go to the courts and so on, then you can have transactions?
Yes, but nothing is barring you from, for instance, renewing your permit. If you do have unpaid tickets and there are citations, you have to go a TT post to pay. Once those are released, you could then renew your permit.
Just finally, for me, the Transport Commissioner, Clive Clark, during the Joint Select Committee yesterday, would have pointed out that the red light enforcement camera system and the spot speed system, I think tenders have already been going out. He said once that's gone out, it's awarded. It could be implemented within a year. What exactly has to take place? Is it just software, or the cameras have to be procured as well? And how soon do you think this could be implemented? Is a year realistic?
Actually, it's at the evaluation stage. And yes, it's a mix between software and hardware, because you need the cameras as well.
Minister, if we're going to Parliament at the end of month to implement this new warning system, why not delay the increase in fees in these payments? And I'm asking that because people are saying they have no money to pay these fees, where they're going to get the money from, and members of the public, law-abiding citizens, are afraid that this will cause an increase in crime, because now a coconut vendor or somebody else have to find $19,000 to pay a ticket. They don't know where they're going to find it from, so therefore they think that persons are going to take money illegally. What do you have to say to that? Why not delay it since you're going to Parliament just now?
Are you referring to the increase in fines in the 9 schedule or 61A?
I mean, I'm referring to all of the increases that members of the public say that they have no money to pay.
The only persons who have to worry are persons who break the law. Law-abiding citizens have nothing to fear. And I make, as I said yesterday, I make no apology. This is our position. We are doing this to ensure compliance and save lives. In the last, from May 2020 to present, over 605,000 fixed penalty notice has been issued. The lawlessness of our nation's rules were worse than we previously thought, as I indicated yesterday. As I also mentioned, in 2021, 2022, 2023, the road fatalities increased, and in 2024 it went up by 22%. In 2025, it went down by 10%, and that's without the demerit point system. The demerit point system did not work in 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024. And let's go more with data. As I indicated yesterday, when I came into office, over 9,700 persons were issued letters of intent to disqualify, and another 9,100 had racked up enough demerit points, but the process had not yet started for disqualification, and nothing was done. There was no follow-up after those letters went out. There was no follow-up.
But the demerit point system was supposed to act like a warning system. How does this differ from your system?
No, it wasn't a warning system. It was double jeopardy. You're penalizing someone twice. It was not effective. And as I mentioned yesterday, persons with 12, 14, and 15 demerit points were being disqualified, but persons with 150 to over 200 remained in our nation roads. So this government had to act decisively of removing those demerit points from the 69 violations in the 9th schedule.
Okay, Minister, I
Sean,
wanted to
Sean,
ask...
if I may just go to Ciudad, please. I believe that we have to balance the entire conference. There are two other journalists with us. So, there are other journalists with us. So, Ciudad, if you could ask your question now, thank you.
I've been waiting long. I mean, by the time I take the passing mic, I was just going to ask quickly, when can people access a period of grace, 3 days or 7 days? Is it now that they can access, or they have to wait till
immediate? So just going back to what I said.
Right.
When you're stopped and a defect has been identified, one of these 18, you'll be given a warning, a printed warning. From that moment, you will have 3 or 7 working days to have the defect addressed.
So when the MPs meet in late January, as Nicholas said,
Yes.
They're going to pass legislation that's going to have some retroactive effect to now. Yes or no?
There'll be no retroactive effect.
No. Okay, this is extremely confusing because what I want to find out is when is it that from what time will motorists be able to access a grace period? So they have to wait till after the MPs have met in late January?
Yes, we have to amend the legislation in the lower house and then at the upper house.
So,
Thereafter, Mr. Douglas.
I'm just going to reiterate the question that my colleague here asked. That isn't this going to be a logistical nightmare for all these motorists to be streaming into all these police stations and saying, "Look, boss, you know," and why not just give like a 2-week blanket, amnesty now? And, you know, why not just let people get their stuff in order? You'll have 2 weeks to get in order. Wouldn't it be a lot easier and simpler for people to understand? Thank you.
I'm asking all motorists to please ensure that there's no defects on your vehicle. You have a responsibility as a motorist to ensure there's no defects on your vehicle, sir.
Two quick questions. One for Dr. Munilal. Could you provide an update on the Petrochin refinery?
Thank you very much. As you know, the committee presented its report about 4 weeks ago or so. At the Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries, we have subjected that report to our own analysis and study. We have had a thorough analysis of the report, and we're now in a position to make recommendations based upon the report. So we expect that we will make recommendations to the Cabinet and to the Honourable Prime Minister very soon. But the matter continues to engage us, and we have received, of course, several expressions of interest, and so from local and international entities that would like to participate in the restart of the refinery. But the report did indicate that the refinery can be restarted in relatively quick time with a certain quantum of finance capital. And we expect now that our recommendations would be, fleshed out in good time in January, and we'll be in a position to make strategic recommendations.
What are some of the competing recommendations being considered?
Well, the recommendations, as you know, they were in the report, and it spoke to the fact that the refinery itself requires a significant amount of work, refurbishment, and in some cases retooling. That has a money price tag on it, and we need to seek partners that will assist in financing that turnaround, as they say in the sector, that will finance the turnaround, given the outlay, the capital outlay that is required. That is the key issue right now, and we are looking at strategic ventures to deal with that. I don't want to get into details of those who are interested, but only to say that we will not want to repeat the horrible, expensive, scandalous experience of the Naikwan under the former administration of Mr. Young and Mr. Rowley. That included Ms. Beckles, who is now talking so much. Don't want to repeat Naikwan experience in the sense that we have to be very, very clear on engagements with entities involved in any huge capital outlay investments.
Will the Office of Procurement Regulator be involved?
We have a report that spelled out some of the problems of the former process that Mr. Young and Mr. Rowley embarked upon, and we will not be repeating the errors, neither the violations or the breach of the law.
Quick question to Minister Benjamin. You did mention that on Ash Wednesday you will do an assessment to see how well the carnival would have progressed in terms of what profits would have been generated, this type of thing. But in advance of that, do you have a projection as to what the ministry is anticipating so that you could measure it against what the eventual outcome might be?
As you would appreciate, my ministry is the facilitator, and the economic gains from Carnival sometimes seen well after our festival. I do apologize. I began my answer by saying, as you would appreciate, my ministry and NCC, we are just the facilitators for the Carnival product. What the government does is put an injection of funds into the economy, and that shows from our hoteliers to entrepreneurs to the artists, and that injection is seen coming back to the government during the course of the year. So, of course, while I said on Ash Wednesday a statement would be made, if you judge from previous years, our carnival is a profitable engagement, and yes, there would be there would be a profitable announcement to be made, and of course adjustments.
Hi, Anna Ramdas from the Express newspaper. Minister Zako, given that we're seeing droves of people at the different licensing offices, is it that the appointment system has completely gone out the window and people are just showing up there? And secondly, when I was at license office on Monday, I saw people, elderly people, 60 plus, they were being turned away. Can you explain why that happened?
Yes. So your first part of your question, the appointment system is still in place, but with the influx of persons coming to the license offices is somewhat of a challenge. Persons were turned away on a few days because of system challenges. I think Tuesday it went down a few times for up to, I think, 6 minutes in one occasion. But that is also being addressed.
Minister, to round up,
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
The concerns that persons are having with all of these fines, right? I know you're saying it has to do with lawlessness and persons breaking the law. Some members of the public are taking offense to that because they're saying they are law-abiding citizens and their license expiring today and having the appointment tomorrow does that make them a lawless person, right? So there are law-abiding citizens that still have to pay an increase in fines. We're talking about renewals and these late penalties, right? There's a fear that this will cause an increase in crime. I know that you're not the minister responsible for that, but you're the minister responsible on the transport. Do you think because of these fines and these increases, that one, that would have a ripple effect because of the charges that you're implemented to have crime? And also, do you think that the crime that could cause would affect the profits you expect to make for Carnival? So it's a two-part thing.
Yes. No, I do not believe so. And to just go back, under regulations 20, persons could renew their driving permit up to 30 days before. And you could also renew your driving permit online. Class 1 and Class 3 could be done online, where your license is delivered to your home or office. And since January 1st, we have seen an increase in persons renewing online.
I went to the website and I clicked on a link and it said not found error 000. So I don't know if it is the website up to date.
I went through that website today, yesterday, a few times yesterday. But like technology, there will be sometimes there may be connectivity issues on your end or our end. But I would also like to add another reason why there's an influx of persons at license office is because of inspections. Now, as you know, on January 5th, the inspection station mandate has expanded. I want to remind the motoring public that public service vehicles, for instance, taxis under 2,270 kilograms, could go to over 77 inspection stations, including VEMCOT. And goods vehicles, trucks and trailers over 3,200 kilograms could go to VEMCOT. They don't have to go to license office. And there is signs up in license office stating this as well. And what we have been doing, or what license officers has been doing, they have been walking the lines every morning and telling persons they could go to VEMCOT and other stations, especially taxis and trucks, and they have been going because we saw an increase of those inspection stations as well, including VEMCOT.
And how do you feel about those figures? And I'm asking this because persons are generally concerned. I know when people are thinking you're asking the questions over and over, but the public is really concerned about this, right? So jumping from 1,000 to, is it 1,750, right? Who comes up with the logistics of these final figures? Are you comfortable? Do you believe that that is a fair enough figure?
Okay, Marie, I think the Minister of Transport has addressed the country 2 times in 2 days.
But he's about to answer that last one, so please, thank you.
What I will answer by saying that, and I mentioned this a couple of times, the previous fines lost their effectiveness. Persons were treating these fixed notices as a minor inconvenience and not a major consequence. Okay? There's definitely a need, ma'am.
Where's the Prime Minister? We're hoping to see her for the New Year any press conferences.
The Prime Minister is actually chairing the cabinet, as we've said from the very start when we started these conferences at this location, and I've said it here, that this is not a post-cabinet briefing, it's a cabinet media briefing because cabinet is currently going on. when you entered this room, the Prime Minister was chairing the Cabinet. Under this administration, the Cabinet in about half an hour, 1 hour, we have a lot of issues to discuss, a country to run, and the Cabinet is very lengthy. So the Prime Minister is chairing the Cabinet and a host of other meetings. The Prime Minister has, in the New Year, spoken to the country a number of times through you all the media. I mean, just last night, the Prime Minister was spoken to the media on this issue. This issue came to the Cabinet, and here's the Minister of Transport. So I think the Prime Minister is doing her job and speaking to the country. So we thank you very much for joining today's press conference. Thank you all. Again, we had 3 critical issues: preserving and strengthening our culture, ensuring road security and safety, and re-energizing the energy sector. It's a government working for you. Thank you very, very much.